Hey everyone, welcome to this new video today that I made for you guys. So one of the most common questions I constantly get is about majors, which is the best major, which is the major I should study. And the reality is, guys, there is no best major. There is no major that'll give you the best career opportunities. It really comes down to you. Like if you enjoy your major, if you like the classes that you're taking, guess what? You're gonna like that major. And the more you like a major, the more you're gonna focus and excel, meet faculty members, be engaged in the student experience. If you don't like it, you're pursuing it only for money, yeah, you might not do a good job. Now, I'm not saying money's not important because it definitely is, but one of the most common majors. So normally I get business majors, nursing majors, very common, but psychology pops up a lot. And I want to make a video on psychology because a lot of students just don't really understand what a psychology major is and what they can do with it. So, first of all, again, I'm using as my example Miami Dade College. I'm using FIU's examples. But if you're in Florida, these requirements are kind of the same, and what you can do is kind of the same thing. So the first thing I always tell my students is that while psychology major is great, it opens up a lot of doors and opportunities to whatever you want to do. It also does limit you, right? And what I mean by that is with an associate's degree in psychology, you really can't do much, right? Like at least not in the field of psychology. Most psychology jobs, you can find some with a bachelor's degree, right? But realistically, most will want you to have a master's degree or a doctoral degree. So I'm gonna go through those degrees um after, but I'm gonna show you the coursework first, right? So right here, we're looking at this is a plan of study, which I'm going to show you where I found it. Because remember, guys, my whole goal with these videos is to teach you where to find this stuff, right? So if you come to the mdc.edu/psychology, remember, universities put all this stuff online for you guys. I come down here, tells me how much this degree will cost me. So notice roughly $7,000, 60 college credits. 2 years to complete. Remember, I already told you guys in other videos, but I'll repeat it here again. To graduate, you need 60 college credits, and then you at FIU, you complete your last 60 for a total of 120. So these are the two links right here, right? Which I'm gonna pop this first one here, which breaks down your semester courses. Now notice your first class, ENC 1101. If for a reason when you take your Accuplacer or your SATs or ACTs, if your scores are a little bit lower, you might have to take a developmental writing course. But again, talk to your advisor, right? Every semester, I tell students, speak to your advisors. That's their job. Their job is to help you, right? Now, if you're not getting help from your advisor, which I mean, I've heard cases, reach out to someone in the department. They're there to help, right? The math that you're taking, notice for psychology majors, you're not taking that MAC 1105 course. Instead, you're taking the MGF 1130 course, mathematical thinking, right? And you're taking your psychology, your first one, intro to psychology, and you're also taking that government or American history course that you need to pass the Florida Civics Literacy examination. So notice they break it down here by semester by semester. If you need help with this, I would say first go to your advisor. If they can help you, go to the actual department. They might have an advisor. And if you still can't get help or assistance, that's where Advising the Way as a nonprofit is here to help students who can't find where the resources are. Like we should be your last choice. However, we're here to help if you need us, right? If you've watched my other videos, you've seen this document I share all the time. This is a document that breaks down to you guys exactly the requirements that you need to complete in order to graduate Miami-Dade College. Now, some courses are specific that you got to take for your major. So, for example, if you're a business major, you're taking specific business courses. But here for psychology, we need specific courses. Now, you might be wondering, well, what classes do I need? Well, Miami-Dade College will tell you what classes you need, or the school that you're transferring to will also tell you. So, for example, here, I'm on the FIU website. Remember, I'm just using FIU because I'm local. I work primarily with Miami-Dade College and FIU students, a couple of Broward College and FAU students here and there, but mostly MDC and FIU because it's our biggest schools here in South Florida, right? And if you're local, you live here and you live at home with your parents, MDC FIU is probably your best bet for your money because they're both public universities, public college, much cheaper if you're in-state resident than going to a private school, right? Nothing wrong with private schools. You know, Barry, St. Thomas, Nova, those are all great schools. But if you have a public university which reduced tuition, why not take advantage of that, right? So when you scroll here through their website, they break down what they specialize in or what they focus on. So they have some sub-disciplines here. They even offer now, look, an online BA in psychology. So if you finish MDC, but you're working full time, so I know, for example, Miami-Dade College offers a lot of courses through MDC Online, their virtual college. So if you're working full time, taking online classes, and now you're coming to FIU, it's also available as well for this degree, it seems, an online BA in psychology. Now, I'll be honest, I mean, unless you really, really, really need to be working full time, I recommend come to campus. Like you're gonna network, meet professors, meet other students, join clubs. You'll kind of have that college experience. Now I get it. Some of you guys might not even care about the college experience. You just want to come in, get your degree, and get the hell out. I get it. I listen. There's something for everyone here, right? So we're gonna go ahead, scroll on down. Again, these are all different options they offer, like behavior analysis. But what we're looking for is, right? Notice admissions. There's two admissions categories. There's a freshman applicant criteria and transfer applicant criteria. So if you are an FIU student right now and you started at FIU, great, that's your criteria. If you're a transfer, which means that you started at Miami-Dade College or Broward College or somewhere else, and now you're transferring to FIU, which you probably are if you're watching this video, then before you transfer, these are the prerequisites that they're asking for. Now, notice they're asking you one, you have to complete an associate's in arts degree. You'll complete this at MDC, right? However, they're also asking for a handful of specific courses. Notice they're asking you for intro to psychology, right? You'll take that your first semester. They're asking you for a human biology, right? BSc 2023. Now, notice if you keep reading, it says or equivalent course at another college or university, such as Miami-Dade College's BSc 1005. So you could take at Miami-Dade College BSc 1005 for this requirement. I always tell my students it's not a matter of it's easier or harder, but here's the reality. At the college level, these numbers tend to kind of correspond to difficulty. So, for example, a 1005 course might be a little bit easier compared to a 2010 course, right? Or 2085, this is anatomy and physiology. So, like, if you're not really great in science, you just want to get the requirements met, 1005 does that for you. Now, you could take other ones. It's totally up to you. Like, only you know what you want. Only you know what your limits are. Like, I don't know you. Nobody else knows you, right? They also want you to take statistics, right? An intro to stats course. So notice they call it STA 2122, but they even tell you right here, Miami-Dade College STA 2023. FIU understands that a big portion of their students that transfer will transfer from Miami-Dade College, right? So they're making it pretty easy for you to come over. Sorry about that, guys. I'm outside today and there's cops and firefighters going crazy around here. Then one of the last requirements they're asking you for is one of these psychology courses. Now, which one you're gonna ask me? Which one should I take? Which is the easiest one? Which is the hardest one? It's really up to you, right? Like COP 2001 is really popular. This DEP course is really popular as well. I know a lot of nursing students take it. So really it's up to you. I mean, you can search these courses, see which one fits your schedule, which one aligns more to your interest in psychology. Like if you're being a psych major, it's because you have an interest in it, like you something you want to pursue, right? I've had students tell me they want to go into psychology because they watched a show on Netflix about criminal profilers and they want to go in psychology to become like a criminal profiler, like serial killers, right? That you can do that. Or if you want to do child psychology, counseling, right? So you have all these different courses you could take, which they're not going to make you an expert, obviously, but they'll give you an intro where you can see if like you like this, or you can dig a little bit deeper, right? Um, and even tells you here, we strongly recommend, right, to do these different things. So again, like here's so you can have an idea. Now notice, here's what I was telling you. Once you have this, right, then it becomes a question like, all right, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. What's next? And I always ask my students this. I tell my students, okay, do you want to get a PsyD or a PhD? And they look at me like I'm talking a foreign language because they've never even considered or they don't even know what the PsyD or PhD is. They don't know how long graduate school takes, the investment they're making, right? Now, I'm not telling you it's not worth the investment. I'm not saying, do this or that. I'm just giving an example. I give it to my students. I say, listen, you're going to spend roughly 2 years of graduate school doing your master's. So you've already spent at Miami Dade College 2 years. Then you spend 2 years at FIU to get your bachelor's degree. Now you're applying to a doctoral program. So if you apply to a PsyD or a PhD program, along the way, you complete the first 2 years, which is roughly the equivalent to a master's degree. Now, most people in these programs, they won't get a master's degree, or if they do get it, they're getting it with the plan of continuing into the PsyD or PhD. And then the question becomes, all right, how long will that take me? Well, that depends, right? A PsyD or a PhD is a doctoral degree. You're looking at 5 to 7 years of doing coursework, clinicals, right? Writing a dissertation, right? This is difficult stuff, right? So it will take you a long time. And how much money could you make as a psychologist? I mean, it really depends. I've seen salaries from like 80 to as high as $200,000. It depends what you're doing. It depends where you're working at, what your specialty is, right? So again, you kind of have to stop and think. And I recommend, I tell all my psych students, go try to talk to different psychology folks. And what I mean is, if you get to the PhD or PsyD level, you're a psychologist, right? You're doctor so and so. And the difference at that level, I mean, there is a difference, right? So traditionally, the way it's thought of is like the PhD people are PhD because there's more research focus, right? You're doing more research. While the PsyD is more clinical, right? You're probably gonna be seeing more patients. Now, I'm not saying that a PhD can't see patients and a PsyD can't do research. That doesn't mean that. It just means that as you move up in academia and education, you tend to specialize more. And if you go the PhD route, right, you're going to be looking for faculty positions at universities and what you publish, what you write, your research, your grants, your funding, all that plays a part. So if you want to go into that world of academia, like being a university professor, right, then maybe the PhD is more what you're looking for. If you want to be a psychologist where you're seeing patients and doing clinical work, maybe the PsyD is a better option. And you also have to consider as well, like, is there a PsyD program or a PhD program where you live? Like, if you want to stay here in South Florida, like you're going to be limited, right? There's not that many options for either one. So again, like that's some high level questions that you gonna have to, I recommend always some self-reflection, some journaling, and kind of think about where you want to end up. But I also give this option, and I just share it because, let me just share this really quick. So There's different programs at FIU. And again, I'm using FIU just because they're a local school here. I recommend you explore every school in Florida, right? Explore every school in Florida because you're for a resident, right? Even private ones, why not? Especially for grad school. So notice for the doctoral programs, they're mostly, actually, they're all PhD programs, right? There really isn't a PsyD program here available. So if you want to do a PsyD, like more clinical, maybe FIU is not your best choice because they don't even have it, right? But here's what I wanted to mention. If you're not sure about the PsyD versus a PhD, and what you really want to do is, like, for example, a lot of students tell me that they want to focus more on counseling, whether it's drug addictions, child counseling, and things like that. And I always tell them, listen, you have master's degrees that are counseling degrees, right? You could be a school counselor, right? And a school counselor is different. There's school psychologists, right? There's mental health counselors in schools. So this is where it gets tricky. You kind of have to figure out where you want to be, but there are different master's degrees that you could pursue, right? That can get you. So for example, a clinical mental health counseling, you can see patients, right? You're working usually like an outpatients or clinics. Now remember, at this level, you're not prescribing medications. Like you can't. And traditionally, like psychologists, even with doctoral degrees, don't prescribe medication. That's not their focus, right? One thing that I've seen, one of my students did it not too long ago. She actually went to the psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, right? But that's a whole separate track. That means that she became a nurse first, worked as a nurse in a mental health facility, and then went back to school to get her master's in psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And she's working now with a psychiatrist, seeing patients the same way a psychiatrist does, prescribes medication. But again, this is not that. So if you want that, I'll make a separate video about that, right? There's rehab counseling, right? There's school counseling programs, and you have obviously PhD counseling. So again, there's different options when it comes, and a lot of these programs are masters. And then I don't want to confuse you as well, but I'm going to as well. There's also masters in social work, right? So it is where I tell students, like, start thinking about kind of what you want, because with a master's in social work and a master's in counseling, the jobs overlap, right? You might find, actually, I recommend, I tell students, go find jobs available right now. See if there's more mental health counseling jobs versus social work jobs, master's level jobs, because they're doing similar things, right? The education is different, but there is some overlap. And again, if you've never really explored or dug into this, then I recommend you do so. Now, because this video is about psychology, I want to keep it on psychology. I won't dive into the social work aspects. However, there is a lot of overlap, right, between what mental health counselors do and what social workers do. They're not the same, but there's some overlap, right? Um, so again, what can you do with a degree in psychology? Associates, not much. And to be fair, there isn't many associate degrees that get you jobs today, anyways. It's sad to say this, but the reality is that the bachelor's degree has become the new high school diploma. And what I mean by that is that the majority of jobs today, like the vast majority of jobs, are asking for bachelor's degrees. And I mean, there's jobs that don't. For example, if you go into vocational or trade jobs, um, police, firefighter type jobs, military, there's still a couple of jobs that will, but I'm talking about corporate America type positions, um, which is kind of what everyone imagines of white collar workers. Those are all asking for uh bachelor's degrees. Now, what's good is, let's say you do a psychology a bachelor's degree, decide right now I'm not gonna go to grad school. There's a lot of jobs you can take, especially like in different corporations, working in sales and working in different positions, that having a degree in psychology could be helpful, could be beneficial, and at least helps you apply for the job, right? A lot of jobs don't even they don't even care sometimes what your degree is in. just that you have a degree. That the degree is more of like a checkbox. So if you need time to figure out where you want to go next for grad school, if you're thinking PhD, PsyD, master's in counseling, you're not sure yet, use your bachelor's degree in psychology, go work, right? Get some experience in the work field, make some money, right? And then while you're doing that though, keep thinking about what you want to do. But if you start planning from the very beginning, exploring, talking to people, reaching out, connecting, having conversations, then at least you can start learning more and more about it. So, as always, you know a routine. If you found this video helpful or you think it could benefit somebody else, feel free to share it, like, subscribe. Um, and again, all the links are here on their page where it maps out all the courses you got to take. If you're confused, if you have any questions about this works, always go to your advisor or department. But remember as well, like we are here as well to help. So, my friends, have a great day. And if you need help, reach out. Remember, advising the way, we are a nonprofit. We don't charge anyone anything. We simply do it because that's our mission. Provide college and career advice to students who need it. So, have a great day, everyone.